So obviously things have gotten very interesting in the Middle East, and by interesting I mean not necessarily in a good way. There is a lot going on there between Israel, Iran, and possibly the United States. At this point, the U.S. is not involved directly, but indirectly. We have in the past had as a regular guest on the program dealing with Middle East issues, Dr. Aram Hessami, a professor at Montgomery College, Rockville. He joins us via telephone this morning. Aram, good morning. Welcome back to the show.
Good morning to all of you and the folks in the studio.
Yes, great to have you with us, Aram. Your family, fled Iran back during the revolution and eventually wound up here in America. So you've got a good knowledge of the things that happen in Iran. You've been used as an expert by many folks over the years to talk about Iran and the Middle East situation. If you could frame this latest scenario for us.
Yes, the danger that the Islamic Republic posed to the region and particularly to the state of Israel is known for years. It is not just that they enriched uranium beyond the 60%, or were trying to reach beyond the 60% that would speed up the development of a nuclear bomb, but also the rhetoric and the narrative that we need to destroy the Zionist state of Israel, and that our aim is to eventually destroy it. Those two rhetoric combined and the action combined, I think, pose an existential threat to Israel, and I think Bibi Netanyahu also had not much to lose at this point after what happened in Gaza and of course, with Hezbollah. So I think a combination of stuff led to what we see now. JCPOA basically was dead, and the negotiation, five rounds of negotiation with the U.S. was going forward, but I think Bibi Netanyahu wanted to make a point at this point, and I think, sorry to say, but I think a new word has to be added to the lexicon of international relations and politics, as opposed to the multipolar world and a bipolar world and a unipolar world. I think we should have a non-polar world, and I think this postmodern condition has led itself to what you see that is happening in Ukraine, in Gaza, and also the attack on Iran.
Aram, your phone line is a little bit muffled. We're going to call you back. Is that okay? Can you answer back in a second?
Oh.
Does that work?
Sure.
Okay. So our producer, Colin McLaughlin, I just sent you Aram's phone number. Just give him a quick call back, and we'll try to reestablish that line. This information is too important to not have a very clear line. I thought it was just me.
I was like, ooh, straining to hear.
Yeah.
I'm right here.
It wasn't breaking up so much. It was just kind of
like he's underwater.
Garbled.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll try to get that line reestablished. Aram was a regular guest on this show when I started doing the program in 2010. We would have Aram on maybe monthly as a Middle East expert. And when Tom Tucker and John Doyle were doing it, I know he was on even more regularly prior to that. So when we need Middle East information, he is the expert. He's an associate professor right now at Montgomery College, Rockville. He got his doctorate from George Washington University, and we always appreciate his input on that. Colin's right now trying to call him back. I see the line flashing, so let's try it again now. Aram, welcome back. Let's hope we have a more clear connection.
I don't know how far you heard me, but
yes.
I was going on without noticing.
Yes, we got most of it, I think. Bill, did you have a question?
Yeah, I do. I don't think this is Bill Stubblefield, Aram. You were going through a new word in the lexicon, and you mentioned various categories. The last one I did not hear, nor did I understand. How about going through those very briefly?
I said the new world order, as opposed to the multipolar world, or a bipolar world, or a unipolar world, we should add a new word called no polar world or non-polar world.
Non-polar world.
Apparently, no one, not the international coalition of countries either the trios in Europe, nor the European Union, nor the United States, nor the UN. None of them are able to do anything about any of the conditions I mentioned: the Gaza war, the war in Ukraine, and of course this is the latest one.
Let's start with the first basic question. Should Iran be allowed to have a nuclear weapon, Aram? Can we all agree that's a bad idea?
Yeah, there's no question about that. No one is disputing that. Question is not whether Iran should have a nuclear weapon. Of course not. The question was whether institutions that are designed, whether it's IAEA or the United Nations or NPT, the vehicle that was designed to do this. I think no one in the right mind, except maybe the Islamic Republic, thinks that they should have a nuclear weapon. They have also mentioned, I know that nobody believes it, they have also mentioned that they don't expect or they don't want to develop a bomb. They just want to have a capability just in case. And the miscalculation on their part was they thought possessing a nuclear weapon will be a deterrent for the West to basically change its plan of destroying the Islamic Republic. That's part of the conspiracy they thought would protect them.
So the idea of having the capability of a nuclear weapon would encourage the West to use diplomacy as opposed to force.
Exactly. And the NPT, you have to realize, NPT allows countries to develop nuclear technology. The question is the enrichment of uranium below 4%. But both JCPOA and the subsequent negotiations that are taking place, the question was whether you can trust the Islamic Republic to, first of all, abide and not secretly, as they did, develop facilities to enrich uranium beyond not only the 4%, but beyond the 60%. So that was the existential threat to the Israelis and to the state of Israel.
Yeah, this still isn't the clearest connection, Aram. You're not breaking up, but you are still muffled a bit in terms of the clarity.
I changed my position. It shouldn't change anything, but let me see if it changes anything now. Is this better?
Move a little bit more.
Oh, move more? I can move to France.
Okay. So can the Iranians be trusted, Aram, under typical testing scenarios?
No. I mean, everybody knows that what has happened with their nuclear sites, and what Israelis did, I think, was really to set the stage. The whole idea is after October 7th. What happened on October 7th? Once Israeli forces took the proxy groups out, particularly the Hezbollah's threat, then the defense or the first line of defense for the Islamic Republic was no longer in place. Therefore, it was easy to hit command and control, and the fear of retaliation by the Islamic Republic forces and the IRGC was limited. Then it made it open season. Once they took down several key command and control, they had air superiority, and they're bombarding over 179 sites as we know today. And I think Netanyahu is going after basically the collapse of the Islamic Republic as we know it. They're hoping, and the messages that I get is that they're hoping that people in Iran will rise up against the regime and topple the regime, and a new system will come to power. The problem here is that the models we have are really bad. Libya, Egypt, Syria, Iraq, Afghanistan, none of these things, particularly if you know for sure that neither the Israelis nor the Americans will put troops on the ground, then it gives a new meaning to regime change, because it may be a war of attrition. and a failed state. And everybody and their uncle is trying to avoid that, if for no other reason than the price of oil and the Strait of Hormuz strategic pathway for all these tankers. So that's basically where we are now.
So, without oversimplifying, Aram, what's America to do? What's our next move? I mean, obviously the president cut his trip short. What's your thoughts on that?
I'm a big critic of Trump's foreign policy and his approach. I think this is a tough guy. Negotiation stuff doesn't work. The scenario that you can control everything and you don't understand that there are many players in the world than the U.S. is problematic. And as you can see, when somebody weakens even all the international treaties and in the name of, that's what I said, it's a no polar world that we're approaching. You'll see all the promises. I stopped the war in Gaza in 24 days, 24 hours. I get all the hostages back from Israel. I'm going to stop the Ukraine war, and I'm going to make a deal with the Ayatollah and make it clear. All of this is pie in the sky. And I think that they have a naive way of thinking that the U.S. can throw its military might and intelligence services and its financial resources around and control many things in the region, not only Israel and Saudi Arabia, but also Russia are players, and they're not sitting still. The same thing with the tariffs. So don't ask me about Trump's policy. You don't start me, especially in the international arena. I don't think there's a plan. I think it's an ad hoc show of strength without backing it up. The same thing happened with the tariffs. I know that you can explain away that, we have to negotiate from the position of strength, but since World War I, we have built a number of institutions. Although they're faulty, to undermine them is counterproductive. And I don't forget the country that came out, or the administration that came out of JCPOA, the general agreement with Iran, with the Islamic Republic, was the Trump administration. So I'm not a big fan of the approach of, and that's why I say in our postmodern world. Let me just give you, sorry to take too much of your time, but let me give you put my political scientist hat on. I think globalization has shocked the system since 1980 for sure, and the natural reaction to the changes that globalization is creating is to go back to your comfort zone, and that's why you see the rise of conservatism, whether it's Japan in France, whether it's England or Germany or Italy, Brazil, Iran, and the United States is dangerous because nationalism and also rights views, meaning protectionism and isolationism, is not going to survive this, because the forces of globalization are too strong. And the wars that you're experiencing, look at all these wars. It's a war of nationalism. It's a war for territory and for control. And that's why I said, if you go counter to that, and this populism that, America is first, therefore we need to do all of this, and everybody is taking advantage of it. I hate to say it, but it's true. America has less than 5% of the world population, and we use more than 25% of world resources. Now, you tell me how countries are taking advantage of it. But that narrative seems to be working because the narrative of fear, the politics of fear, is working. And it is unfortunate that this populism and demagoguery has taken over politics around the world. Sorry to take too much of your time.
Yeah, Ram, let's go. This is Bill Stubblefield. Let's go back to Maria's question, but let's take it from a different perspective. With the Israeli-Iran war, Iran or Israel has full air supremacy. They basically can do anything they need to do right now. Why do they need the U.S. becoming involved?
Two reasons. Only U.S. has B-2 bombers. B-2 bombers are deep, can go deep enough to destroy the very deep infrastructure they built in Fordow. That's one. But they also need the U.S. to provide support, and just in case something goes wrong. And I think that's what the problem is. And that's why they need that support. But also, again, I'm sure neither the Trump administration nor Bibi Netanyahu are ready for not winning the war, but winning the peace, and not to make a nation be a failed state. And the vacuum of power led in Syria to ISIS, and the region was destabilized. And all of these are part of this short-sightedness that I was referring to.
Well, you raised a couple of points. One with the Buster bomb. The Israeli ambassador a couple of days ago said that they had ways of taking out these enrichment facilities without the Buster bomb. Of course, that's what we tend to think of, Buster bomb taking everything out. But he says that's not necessary. But the real question, you alluded to it earlier, if there is a regime change, where do they go? We have not had a huge success in the Middle East with a regime change of something more globally workable. They become more of an isolationist. They become more of a very inner-looking, much more conservative. Is there any reason to think that would change if there was a regime change?
Good question. This is why the American diaspora and the political forces should have been ready for this moment. The alternative, you want a democratic alternative, the people whom you can trust. If you remember with Chalabi, with Iraq, we had the same problem. They thought that they viewed the Americans as the liberators, and what they dismantled the Ba'athist regime and let the army go and dismantled the army, you had a vacuum of power that then the U.S. had to get into the business of nation building. We have plenty of chances in the Middle East to try this. Afghanistan is another disaster, spending billions of dollars, using a lot of American resources to turn around and give the country back to the Taliban. You're absolutely right. That's why you need sagacity and wisdom to foresee what will happen after. And I understand that when you're in a state of war, you don't think about other nations. But even for your own benefit, you don't want to create a vacuum of power that you get something like ISIS be recreated. Now, Iranian society is somewhat different inside. Civil society is very strong, and they have been strangled by the heavy hand of the military and the IRGC forces. And there is, as we speak, there are movements inside to, in essence, form some kind of a coalition with the help of the expatriates outside the country. And there are 8 million expatriates outside the country around the world who can help. But the problem is that no one was ready for this, although the blame goes on the Iranian political society outside the country to have foreseen and have acted accordingly. But that's the vacuum of power. But again, Iran is a much more educated country than Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm not saying this because I was born in Iran. This is my political science hat. I can put my activist side hat on, and then you have to go for another 2 hours with me. But anyway, that's where we are. You also could make an agreement. As you know, Iran has 2 different types of armed forces. One is the army and the navy, but one is the IRGC forces. Once you dismantle the real power which rests with IRGC, there is an opportunity that the armed forces, the army, could basically become the go-to force to keep the stability of the country and put its weight behind some democratic, pluralistic forces who will then fill in the gap. That's the idea. And hopefully expatriates like us outside the country can help.
Did you have a follow-up, Bill?
No.
Iran has warned President Trump to not get the U.S. involved directly, or it could be all-out war. Who comes to the aid of Iran, or is Iran fighting this on their own if it does develop into an all-out war?
Yeah, at this point, they have been bragging about their strategic partnership with Russia, which is just in their mind. Russia is too busy already, and of course, you know the role of Iranian drones helping Putin attack Ukraine. At this point, they're also part of the, Shanghai Cooperation Organization, but at this point, I think no one is going to come to the aid of the Islamic Republic, especially because they love someone punishing them for what they have done to the region during the past 46 years. Now, the humanitarian crisis that it may cause, because as you know, both Trump and Bibi Netanyahu send a message to the people of Iran that evacuate Tehran. Tehran is a major city and a multi-million, if I'm not mistaken, the greater Tehran, you have something about 7 or 8 million people in there. So just look at the humanitarian crisis that this may cause. So it is not just Iran, but the region is worried about what could happen if you go to all-out war. And again, it could become a war of attrition. As you remember, and you know what happened with Gaza, even when you have troops, you still are not capable of doing certain things, like finding all the hostages or dismantling Hamas altogether. It didn't happen. So at best, what you can hope that some forces inside the country either stage a coup and or come to a negotiated settlement without Khamenei and without the mullahs, and that could be another option for the U.S. and Israel to consider.
1 minute, Aram. How long do you think this will last, the duration of this conflict?
I think Bibi Netanyahu has nothing to lose at this point, meaning that what happened in Gaza and the accusation against Bibi Netanyahu about war crimes and the fact that in his legacy, the only thing I think that will be more pronounced than anything else would be that I did away with the Islamic Republic as we know it and the theocracy in Iran, and I totally neutralized the nuclear capabilities. Therefore, it's anybody's guess how long it lasts. My guesstimate, I should say, at this point, is that if Iran also realizes that the war of attrition will become a winning strategy, then they will engage in that. But I'm not sure if the IRGC and Ayatollah or establishment are strong enough to withstand this non-stop bombardment. If there are other options, like a coup d'etat or a negotiated settlement, may be the best option to save the people of Iran on the one hand and save the region to an all-out war. The market already reacted 7 or 8%. Oil prices went up 7 or 8%, and the market around the world reacted. So a long war with another front in Ukraine may not be a wise thing to do.
Aram, thank you so much for your time this morning. Much appreciated.